Hello and welcome to Elizabeth's Craft Room. Today we're going to do a card with some designer series paper and the beautiful Lovely as a Tree in Vellum over the top. I'm going to do it slightly different to this one. I've decided I want some buttons on there. And I really want a real red cherry cobbler button. But when I looked in my my button pot that I had here, I've only got brights at the moment. So we can do something about that now. I've picked out a Blendablities marker, and I've got a wooden stick here, just a wooden skewer to hold it in place, and I'm going to colour it in. Now that I'm using the darkest of the cherry cobbler. Now, because this has got some grooves in it, I'm actually going to use the button the other way up, but I want it to colour both sides and round the edges so that it just gives it a nice deep cherry cobbler colour. I'm doing this bit first because it takes a moment for the ink to dry, but it does create a beautiful glossy button in the colour that I want. Just to say, the reason I'm using a wooden chopstick to hold this in place is this colours non-porous surfaces. My fingernail is a non-porous surface, so I don't want little blobs of red on my fingernail today, so I've just used my my skewer to keep that in place. Right, okay, on with the card while the button's dry. So this is cherry cobbler, half a sheet of A4, folded in half at 10.5 centimetres to make our base card. Then I have a piece of Whisper White. This is by 3.5 by 5.25 inches. I've got some strips of designer series paper. Now this is from the Trim the Tree pack. I'm actually keeping these now in our wood mount cases, which you can get in the catalogue. They come in a little stack like this, and they are so beautiful. I don't know if you're seeing all the designs on the other side as well. They're just beautiful. But our stacks fit perfectly into these boxes, and then all your little offcuts can go in there with them, and I'm labelling them up on the side because I'm a mad neat person, and thank you to Amanda for the idea of keeping them in there. I really liked that. So I've cut these strips at 3/4 inch and just taken a selection out of the pack. And then finally I've got a piece of vellum cardstock. Our vellum cardstock is nice and stiff, it's not like a paper. And this is the 5.25 inches by 2 inches. And I'm going to start off by stamping on that with this image from Lovely as a Tree. Lovely as a Tree is our longest lasting stamp set in the catalogue, and I believe it is Shelley Gardner, our CEO's favourite, and I am really pleased it is because it just comes into its own so many times of the year, including as a Christmas card. And I'm just going to stamp that straight down onto my piece of vellum, roughly in the middle. I'm stamping this with StazOn ink. And again, you can see what a beautiful image that is, and the detail in there is lovely. I'm going to leave that to dry just for a moment, as on vellum it takes a little bit longer to dry. So now we can make up our background. So there is no right or wrong way to do this. I like just doing a little tear on them because I originally saw an example of this on a display board, I think it was, at convention, and just liked the tearing on there. Let's see how many of these I can get onto my little piece there. Yeah, with a narrow gap in between, I can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at 3/4 inch. Oh, I like them all. This is the Trouble Decisions. I think I'll go with that one there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to tear these a little bit in a kind of an arc going upwards. And there's no right or wrong, no particular measurement on this. I'm just sort of holding it up and having a look to see what I like. So this one here a little bit shorter, and this one again a little bit shorter still on the right hand side. There you go, that looks good to me. I'll push those pieces to one side. I'm going to attach them with Tombow, and that'll give me a little bit of wiggle room when I put them down. But the first thing I'm going to do is to line up and just get an idea of how big those gaps are going to be in between. They're quite narrow. So let's go from the outside in. I do like that this stripy one. That's rather nice. Just a little bit of Tombow on there, and less is more with Tombow, but we can just wiggle a little bit to get it straight when we first put it down, which is what I love about this adhesive. So put that on. We'll have the stripy one this end. And I find with something like this, sometimes it is easier to go in from the outside and then into the middle. You can measure if you like. I'm just going to wing it for the process, the purposes of doing the video. You can use your grid paper as a bit of a guide as well if you want to measuring, but we had a look. They were just little gaps, weren't they? So we'll go with that. Of course, this design doesn't need to be Christmassy. I've got the traditional festive colours going on here, but you could certainly do this exact design and a card for any time of the year. Okay, pop that on there. So I want my greeting down at the bottom. I'm going to use a Merry Christmas greeting, and this is out of Making Spirits Bright, which has got some lovely ones, a nice sort of fine font. I'm going to do that in the StazOn. Just pop that down at the bottom. And then we're going to attach the vellum over the top of the paper. Now, when you're gluing vellum, you can just glue it on, and Tombow, it's not too bad. I've actually done this just with Tombow. You can see a little bit through. I'm not wildly happy with that because I can actually see it through, so I'm going to do something different on this particular one. I'm going to attach it two ends and then cover it up with the buttons, hence the need for the buttons. So I'm going to do this still with Tombow, because Tombow does attach this vellum quite nicely, but just two little dots where the buttons are going to go. Then we won't see that glue through when we're done. So let's line that up till I'm happy with that. Give that a press down. And then the absolute best thing for sticking buttons, glue dots. And I'm going to use a couple of those. Those buttons are now dry, so you can see it doesn't take very long for that ink to dry. I'm going to pop those on there. And what I'm going to try, I haven't tried this, so this will be a live test, is I like buttons to look as if they've got some thread through. Now I could have actually threaded some thread through, but what I'm going to use is chalk marker. Let's see how the chalk marker goes. Lovely. And that's just given a little bit of a look of thread through those buttons. So the answer is yes, you can use the chalk marker over the top of Blendability covered buttons. Okay. It's just not quite straight. I'm going to have to fiddle with that afterwards. But I like the fact that it's lifting a little at the edges, because that actually gives it a bit more of a 3D look. So just to finish this off, I'm going to put some Tombow on the back and layer that up on my cherry cobbler card. So if you were the person who made that sample at convention, and I think it was Convention 2013, you just give me a shout and I will give you a shout out on my blog to say thank you for the inspiration, because I loved the idea of the design. And I'm loving this Christmas card. Thanks for visiting Elizabeth's Craft Room today. I look forward to seeing you again soon.